So that's all of the prerequisites. Now, what we want to do is start configuring our Ethernet adapters. So, for an enterprise type setup, normally you'll have two bonded adapters, and then you'll use VLAN tags to set those up. So, what we'll do here is I have three network adapters. I'm connected with my on ENO 1677984. That's what I'm connected to right now. But then I have ENO 33557248 and ENO 5036512. So we want to be in slash etc sysconfig network scripts. And we'll have a network script in here for each one of these. So let's do a VI, and we will create an IFCFG script for ENO 33557248. Let's make sure I didn't mess that up. That's, yep, and I did. ENO 33557248. Okay. So what we want to do here is we want to create a device equals, and let me go ahead and write this file so I can see. Oops. ENO 33557248. All right. On boot equals yes, so we tell this to start on when the system boots. The boot protocol is going to equal none. And then we're going to increase the MTU on this. So we'll set the MTU to 9,000. This is to enable jumbo frames on this. And then we're actually going to make this part of a bond. So we're going to say the master equals bond 0. And then we're going to say slave equals yes. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and write this file. And then we're going to copy this file to the next name of the file. So it will be ENO 50336512. I'm going to go ahead and copy that this time so I don't have to remember it. Oops. So need two parameters to copy. I need to copy my IFCFG ENO 3 to 5. Now we want to edit it. And let's replace the name here. Great. So now we have two of these that will start up and be part of a bond. So now we need to create that bond file. So let's vi ifcfg-bond 0, and we need to call it device equals bond 0, on boot equals yes. Type is going to be an OVS port, because we're going to plug this directly into an open vSwitch. So if you're familiar with VMware, this would be like an uplink to a VMware switch. So then we're going to do device type equals OVS, and OVS underscore bridge equals BR VLAN. So we're going to create a bridge in a minute called BR VLAN, meaning this is where we pass all of our VLAN IDs. We're going to set this to be the bonding master. And then we're going to set some bonding options. And the bonding option that I like to use most is bonding mode 6, because it doesn't require any configuration on the switch side. And it does a pretty good job of load balancing and round robining together. And then we're going to do an MTU of 9,000. So let's go ahead and write that to a file. And now we referenced an OVS bridge. So let's go ahead and create that OVS bridge. So that's going to be ifcfg-br-vlan. And we need to create that now. So device equals brvlan, boot proto equals none, on boot equals yes, type equals OVS bridge, and device type equals OVS. Okay, so that's all there is there. So that's all we really need to get the bridging up and running. But what I want to do now is I want to actually move my management interface from the physical interface that I have here to a sub-interface of these two adapters. So what I've done in this scenario is essentially plugged this into just an access port on my switch, so I can SSH to it and remotely configure it. And this is just a simple 1 gig adapter. But then I have my two 10 gig adapters here that I'm going to be basically using for my uplinks for my bond. And then we'll be disconnecting this in the future, right? So this is just to get up and running, to do a quick provisioning. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's create our bond interface, our bond subinterface that's a VLAN 101. So I'm going to ifcfg bond 0.101. Now our device equals bond 0.101. On boot equals yes. Boot proto equals none. Type equals VLAN. So this is a VLAN subinterface. VLAN equals yes. And we're going to set an IP address on this. So IPADDR equals 172.23.101. I believe this one's 128. All right, and then netmask equals, and this is a class C, so 255.255.255.0, and gateway equals 172.23.101.254. Okay, and then we're going to set our DNS records in here. So, and DNS2 equals 8.8.4.4. Okay, so this is just a simple static IP assignment here. The only two differences are that we have a .VLAN ID here. This is the VLAN that we're going to use for this, and then we're setting these two lines here, type equals VLAN and VLAN equals yes. Other than that, this is a simple set a static IP address on an interface. Okay. Okay. So now that we've created that subinterface, bond 0.101 for management, I also want to create another subinterface for my VXLAN traffic. So we're going to isolate my our overlay networks into a different VLAN. So let's go ahead and let's copy that IFCFG bond 0.101, and we'll set that to our next VLAN ID, which will be 130. That's what I'm going to use for this. So now I want to edit that file and set it up for VLAN 130. So VLAN 130, we need to update this to reflect that. And then the IP space in 130 is pretty similar to 101. The only difference is we don't need a way to get out of this VLAN, right? We don't need a gateway. We don't need DNS and all of that. This is just a layer 2 VLAN to segment that traffic. So every host that's doing VXLAN will be in the same layer 2. Now this might be the case for you. You might have different hosts across different layer 3 boundaries doing VXLAN and GRE tunneling, and that's quite all right. But for this example, they're all going to be on the same VLAN there. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up our next VLAN, which is our external interface. So again, I'm going to copy the bond 0101 and set that to bond 0202. Okay, so 202 is our external interface, and so we're going to get that up and running here. And let me edit that. So this is where our public internet, or maybe this is our corporate network, is going to be running. So we're going to go ahead and get in there as well and set that up. So again, we need to set this to VLAN 202. On boot equals yes, boot pro is none. Type, this is going to be an OVS port. VLAN is still equal to yes, and we're going to remove the rest of this. And we're going to connect this to an OVS bridge that we haven't created yet, which equals br-ext. This is our external bridge. So think of bridge as like vSwitches. We're connecting this uplink to a vSwitch. And now we need to create this BREXT, which is going to be very similar to BR-VLAN. So let's copy IFCFG BR-VLAN to IFCFG BR-EXT. Let's VI IFCFG BR-EXT. And all we have to do here is change the name. All right. So there we go. And if you wanted to create additional networks, you definitely can. You can do that. So what I'm going to do is, and this will probably disconnect me, so make sure that you have console access, or you have the ability to log back into this host. But I'm going to reboot this virtual machine because I'm moving an IP address from one interface to the other, and if I just restart networking, that might not happen cleanly. My best bet here is to reboot this host. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and we will edit out the reboot, and we'll be back in just a second. So let's go ahead and look at the IP address configuration here. So you could see that, let's go up to the top, that our initial Ethernet adapter now that we had before is down. We now have our two 10 gig interfaces that are up, and they're on set to MTU 9000, and they are set as slaves to bond 0. We've created our BR VLAN. We've created our bond 0. We've created our external BREXT bridge, and we have two sub-interfaces with IP addresses, our bond 0101 and our bond 0130. We've also created our bond 0202. So now we can look at Open vSwitch as well by running an ovs-vsctl show. And you can see we have our external bridge set up here, as well as it's physically connected, or virtually in this case, to bond 0.202. And then we have BR VLAN that is just connected directly to the trunk of bond 0. So then if we present multiple VLANs to bond 0, BR VLAN can do its own VLAN tagging and be able to use those. So that's very similar to in VMware, if you're familiar with VMware, that if you assign a trunk to a port group and allow all the VLANs to go through, then you need to prune those VLANs or assign those VLANs in the guest operating system. Or you can do things like this and create an actual port group with a static VLAN ID and map one-to-one. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Is this is a trunk, and then this is an access port. So that's all there is to the prerequisites for getting your hosts ready for Platform 9 with Neutron. I have 3 other hosts that I'm going to get ready so that we can move on to installing Platform 9. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, get those other hosts up and running, and we'll be back in just a minute.